So Genshin for once has made a really interesting character kit, and it belongs to a standard character who's actually going to be pretty decent. So chances are he's not surviving this beta. Hello there, Flip here, and today we're going to be discussing Lohan, breaking down his kit, then I'm going to be covering all the different calcs I made for his teams, including some with his constellations and weapons, and discussing how he plays into the meta. But before we do that, as always, if at any point during the video you are entertained or informed, make sure to drop a like and even consider subscribing, as I talk on various topics regarding Genshin's meta, and I'll try to keep you updated. Shout out to all my lovely, beautiful channel members, I really appreciate your support. Some of you have been here for way too long, please put your finances in a better place, and no sponsor for the video, so let's just get right into it. Alright, so Lohan is going to be a 5-star cryo on-field unit, but unlike some other on-fielders who are primarily DPS, Lohan is built around having strong off-field damage dealers to buff himself, so his primary role is more so that of a driver, but he also happens to have strong on-field DPS capabilities too. So he's kind of like Flynn's in that sense, skipping over his normal attacks because they don't do anything. Lohan's elemental skill will send him into a special stance, and in this stance he gains a cryo infusion that can't be overridden. I feel like I've heard this one before. Jokes aside, he'll gain a cryo infusion, and then he has 2 special resources that he can use. His first resource is called Joy, and is accumulated whenever Lohan does normal or charge attacks, and when Lohan has enough joy, he will be able to unleash a special elemental skill. And this is where his second resource, Will to Win, comes into play, as its purpose is to boost the damage of this special elemental skill. And the way you accumulate this is via off-field units dealing damage, and the more damage those off-field units do, the more Will to Win is accumulated. The exact thresholds are actually pretty interesting. You need more than 1000% of Lohan's base attack to accumulate 20 Will to Win, and 4000% of Lohan's base attack to accumulate 60 Will to Win. And if you don't reach at least 1000 of his base attack, you just accumulate 1 Will to Win. That is why you want to have decent off-field units in your team to be able to reach these caps to boost his elemental skill, as you can get up to a 40% damage bonus on his skill for doing so. So yeah, that's more creative and experimental than half of the other characters like this. Build up your enhanced skill via doing normal and charge attacks, and then your off-field DPS will make your enhanced skill stronger. And one more interesting thing about Lohan is going to be the fact that his charge attack in his skill state only consumes 10 stamina. That is over half a reduction compared to the normal 25. And then on top of this, Lohan's charge attack isn't like someone like Hu Tao's, where she dashes forward or something. Lohan's charge attack is a very quick jab, so his N1C string combos into itself very nicely and can be spammed. His first normal attack also comes out extremely quickly, so just spamming N1C on Lohan seems to be the optimal play for his damage. And via footage from private servers, mixing in N1C spam with a few elemental skills to activate his passives that make his normal attack stronger seems to just be the play, which is very sad when you look at his elemental burst, where he just fucks you, and it's one of the coolest burst animations in the game, which seems to just be a trend with all the characters released this cycle. But at the very least, N1C spam just looks like him penetrate. Okay, I am going to calm down before I get this video demonetized. But yes, his burst is very similar to his special skill. It gets up to a 40% damage boost by the amount of Will to Win you have, as well as also doing the same thing the skill does by consuming all of your Will to Win, so it kind of just acts like a stronger version of the skill, with the cost of it taking more animation time. But optimally, you might not even need to use it anyways, so I wouldn't really worry that much about it. Getting into his Ascension passives, his first one is just what I stated prior, in which if you deal 4000% of Lohan's base attack, you will generate an extra 60 Will to Win. Depending on your weapon, you need like 30,000 to 40,000 damage to activate this. Durin with melted hits very easily gets this. Furina's Craboletta also quite easily gets this too, even with Fav and Tenacity. Most sub DPS have something in their kit that can trigger this decently well. And then for his Ascension 4, whenever a cryo reaction is triggered by another party member, both Lohan and that party member will have their attack increased by 15%. This is funnily enough pretty inconsistent or just doesn't matter in some teams. Lohan is quite a fast cryo applicator, so the dominant aura in most of his teams is going to be cryo. This is obviously fine if you're enabling forward melts for Durin, but if you're playing something like a freeze team, the only characters that can trigger this are Hydra characters, usually, and Furina just doesn't care about that 15% attack, so half of the passive is being wasted in that case. And then in teams like reverse melt setups where you want Lohan to be the one melting, he isn't able to trigger this passive himself, and no one else on the team will be triggering cryo reactions, as the dominant aura para will be Pyro, so this passive just won't activate in that case, which I think is funny. Lohan's third passive is extremely odd and I don't get why it exists, but basically when Lohan activates his skill, he will increase the talent level of his skill for 9 seconds, and if the skill level of any other party member's abilities is higher than Lohan's, the duration of this whatever will be increased by 6 seconds. So basically it wants someone on your team to be crowned, I'm guessing. But even in that case, 9 seconds is most of Lohan's field time, so this wouldn't even really, you know what, we're moving on. Now before getting into what everyone probably came here for, the calculations. For one, if you want to see my calculations early, you can always just go to my Twitter as I post them there first. And also while you're there, if you want any specific team calculated with my calcing standard or with your own builds, then you can go over to my Ko-fi and support me there for that. And if you can't do that, that's perfectly okay. Liking, commenting, and sharing this video is more than enough. And since you're already here, you may as well just subscribe. Anyways, back to the video. Now, the most obvious choice for Lohan is going to be a Duran team with Nicole. One of the biggest strong points of Noelle is the fact that she's a strong team-wide attack buffer, meaning that she can give very competitive buffs to Lohan, similar to Bennett, while also buffing Duran at the same time. Duran is obviously going to use his black form in this team to further boost his melt damage. This form applies Pyro every 2.5 seconds. This will be more than enough time for Lohan to apply Cryo, even if he was the only Cryo unit on the team. So within Lohan's field time, he allows Duran to melt all of his hits, while Lohan does very good damage of his own, buffed by Duran's off-field damage. Here are my initial calcs on the team with and without Lohan's signature weapon. This isn't including any of the new Lohan combos we've gotten because it shouldn't really change that much, considering as you can see Duran is the main DPS for this team anyways. But regardless, these are quite good numbers. Of course it isn't reaching the heights of the lunar carries, but no one was really expecting that. I don't know if I've said this in this video at all yet, but Lohan is very likely going to be a standard banner character. It is what all of the leaks have been saying and would make sense considering his constellations aren't the best. So for a character you can lose your 50-50 to, or you can get for free in the standard selector later this year, potentially, for one of his teams to be on par with the Natlan levels of power I think is pretty impressive. For this team comp, for what I've calculated, Silali does seem to be the best. She's also able to carry TTDS and pass it to Lohan or Duran. It doesn't really matter who you pass it to, it comes out to around the same DPS. And she's also able to give you the Pyro and Cryo scroll buffs extremely easily. But if you don't have Sitlali, any general Red Shredder should work fine. Jillinan is still great. Sucrose' amazing twin is able to give you team-wide EM buffs. Even a character like Prune is somewhat decent here. For Nicole replacements, your only option is really Bennett. But because you won't be able to buff Duran as much, the team just take a massive hit in performance. Hell, Duran is surprisingly more replaceable on this team, as he can be traded for an off-field oriented Malvika while still getting your initial melted burst. But this is just a bad Malvika melt team, and if you have Malvika and Sitlali, just run a stronger melt team for her, unless you really want to play Lohan. And outside of using him as a driver, Lohan is also just a really competent cryo DPS. There are two more team archetypes I looked at for him, one of them being reverse melt teams. This team gave me the worst results out of everything I looked at, and the team also does require you to have Emily or a Dendra character, the best being Emily, to help with adding power application for Lohan to melt his hits. This team is fine but not really anything that remarkable. The team I am most interested in talking about is going to be his Escoffier teams. These teams don't require Duran or Nicole, and outside of Furina and Escoffier, the third best in slot for this team is going to be Mona. This is because she can hold the new bounty set for a team-wide 40% damage bonus. She's an amazing Thrilling Tales holder, and she also enables Lohan's Hexerite passive. And I did use Lohan's new combos in this team, so he's doing a ton of damage here. And for a team with two virtually free teammates, the fact that he's better than every other cryo DPS besides Skirk is kinda hilarious. And I have been putting his signature weapon in all of the calcs because I think if you are a Lohan main, you should skip him one release and just get his signature weapon. It is a 30% personal damage increase and most likely won't be back for a while. Lohan is going to be free. The biggest priority is just getting his weapon, and if you are getting his weapon, he's very comparable to Skirk without not hers, which is once again nuts for a standard banner character. The last one we had was Mizuki, who was a Sucrose downgrade, but Lohan doesn't really have any issues with his kit. His animations and combos flow very nicely into each other, and he has a very good amount of team flexibility. And we know that cryo reactions are going to be buffed in the future, so with Lohan being an actual DPS driver hybrid, I can see him even having some long-term relevance. That or Hoyoverse realizes they made him a bit too strong and decide to nerf him, which, knowing Hoyoverse, yeah. But with that, I have nothing else to say, so thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on Lohan, as I would love to hear it and I respond to almost every single comment. Channel members, thank you so much for your continued support, it means the world to me. Thank you to everyone else for watching the video, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.